Revelations.Unveiled.Detroit.
The Complexion for Protection, the duality of the American justice system. A continuing review of the carnal or the spiritual examinations of the carnal existence. The Complexion for Protection, highlighting the dualities of the American justice system. A DeWitt, Michigan police officer was fired earlier this year for pulling a gun on a black newspaper delivery driver while he was off duty. He has been reinstated by the department. Chad Vorce called 911 in January after seeing a suspicious black man parked near his DeWitt Township home. When Vorce asked the 19-year-old what he was doing, the teenager replied, "I'm just doing me," according to police reports. The driver's response did not satisfy Vorce, so Vorce followed him, pulled his gun on him twice, and chased him to a gas station down the road, according to police reports. Vorce got out of his pickup at the gas station, approached the delivery driver with his gun out. Vorce continued to yell at and argue with the driver, even after two on-duty police officers arrived. Vorce, an 18-year veteran of the department, was fired in May for operating outside of his jurisdiction 1, using excessive force 2, failing to de-escalate the situation 3, having an inappropriate tone and demeanor, and violating the department's social media policy by contacting the Lansing State Journal, the driver's employer, using his city email account, also identifying himself as an officer. 5. Vorce's conduct and behavior on the morning of January 14, 2021 brought disrespect to himself and the DeWitt City Police Department, officials noted in the internal investigation. So this out of control, rogue, suspected white supremacist cop terrorist has pulled his gun out on a 19-year-old delivery newspaper man who was black. And because the young man did not give a satisfying response to this man, he began to chase him and threatening his life. And the police department of this officer has reinstated him. He was reinstated this month by arbitrator Thomas Barnes. Barnes wrote in his decision that while Vorce's action did have an impact on the department, it wasn't to a degree that it otherwise undermined or significantly impaired the otherwise good reputation of the department. In a statement, department officials wrote, they are extremely disappointed in the decision that while Vorce's action did have an impact on the department, they still believe Vorce's firing was justified. Barnes's decision is binding, however, and the city had no choice but to reinstate Vorce. The public should know that the city of DeWitt did not settle this case. The statement reads, the city elected to litigate the decision to terminate Officer Vorce and exhausted all options available through the arbitration process. Vorce testified during arbitration that when he viewed the videos, he became upset to his stomach. and wish he had handled the situation better, according to Barnes's written decision. He testified he recognized how the situation went tragically wrong. Vorce said he wanted to help apprehend the driver in the event he had been a suspect in any local crimes, and to be a hero to the department and his community. He testified that if he had been on duty, he would never have acted that way. He said he acted out of concern for the presence of his son, whom he brought with him in his vehicle, but also acknowledged he had made the situation worse by putting his son in harm's way. So you see the pathology of these rogue supremacist terrorists. They try to turn the sentiment to their own case, talking about putting his own son's life in jeopardy when he was the threat and the evil force against a 19-year-old newspaper delivery guy. Had he not confronted the man, had he minded his own business, none of this would have occurred. In his decision, Barnes cited mitigating factors like Vorce's clean record and lack of past citizen complaints. He wrote, the case was not egregious enough to justify firing him for his first offense. Chasing somebody down the street, threatening their life with your gun is not a fireable offense. It's not likely to occur again, given Vorce's recognition of what he did wrong, Barnes wrote. Vorce testified he is not a racist and was upset by any inference that he was. Who would confess or admit to being a racist? He acknowledged he had multiple opportunities to simply drive away and let the on-duty officers take care of the delivery driver. Vorce was reinstated with no back pay, and his seniority was restored. He will have to go through sensitivity training. Another factor in Barnes's decision was the delivery driver's testimony. He spoke in a manner in which he did not exhibit any disdain for the police department, nor any anger or dislike for Vorce, Barnes wrote. And you wonder if the driver was in fear, was subtly coerced, or made to feel, quote unquote, it would be in his best interest not to testify with the force of hate that the episode of his life being threatened warranted. Barnes wrote, it appears incredibly unusual to have a young Black individual minding his own business while delivering newspaper being pursued by Vorce, who twice pulled his gun on him, and not have any seething dislike or hatred for what happened. Who says he does not, but he's trying to maintain so he can sustain. He may have, and in not a small way, saved Vorce's skin with his unemotional testimony. Oh, wow, family. So that was the out. That was the one point where they needed to jiggle in and get this rogue, suspected supremacist cop terrorist off the hook. And they can attribute it to the victim himself with his non or unemotional, non-hatred or disdain having testimony. That is, having the complexion for protection. Vorce was leaving his DeWitt Township, Michigan home at about 7 a.m. January 14 when he saw a parked minivan he thought looked suspicious, according to the department's internal review. He approached the 19-year-old driver and asked if he was lost. The man, who had been putting newspapers in bags, told Vorce, "I'm just doing me," according to police reports. The driver's response didn't satisfy Vorce, so Vorce followed the driver. He called dispatch and asked for backup. Vorce later said there had been recent reports of vehicle larcenies and a stolen vehicle near his home with a similar suspect description: black hoodie, freaking black guy, doing me. The internal report clarified there was no evidence a crime had taken place or was about to take place. So this wicked, rogue, suspected supremacist cop terrorist just took it upon himself to not mind his business and to get into the business of someone simply doing their jobs. When the delivery driver realized Vorce was still behind him, the driver backed up to try to talk to him, he told police. Vorce backed up as well. This occurred several times. Vorce later told police he thought the driver was trying to ram him with his van. "I'm gonna go, shots fired if he does it again," Vorce told dispatch after one of the times the driver backed up. "This one's going to turn out real bad if someone doesn't get here now." The driver turned around to continue delivering newspapers, then saw Vorce had pulled out a gun, according to police reports. At that point, he drove out of the neighborhood, wanting to be in public if Vorce was going to shoot him, he told police. Vorce followed the driver as he pulled into the Tailgater Sunoco gas station on Airport Road. Vorce told investigators he got out of his truck, identified himself as a police officer, and pointed his gun at the delivery driver and told him to stop, according to reports. The driver said he had no idea Vorce was a police officer. Vorce had no visible identification and was not wearing a police uniform and was driving his personal vehicle. They began yelling at each other, according to reports. At one point, before a Michigan State Police trooper and a fellow DeWitt officer arrived, Vorce told the man he was going to shoot him, a witness told police. The witness said if other officers had not shown up and acted professionally, he thinks the driver would have been shot. Even after two on-duty police officers arrived at the gas station, Vorce continued to yell and argue with the delivery driver, according to dash camera footage from Michigan State Police. All you had to say was, "Man, I'm just delivering newspapers." But instead, you tried to freaking ram me, Vorce said. Later on January 14, Vorce emailed the State Journal and asked the driver be put on a different route for my safety and the safety of my family. The driver quit his route less than a month later. Vorce was placed on administrative leave January 14, pending the results of the investigation. Michigan State Police took over criminal investigations. Ultimately, neither Vorce nor the delivery driver wanted to pursue charges. Clifton County Prosecutor Tony Spagnuolo denied charges in March, noting the victims did not want to prosecute. That is the complexion for protection. The unwitting forces of fear and brotherhood colored the testimony of this victim, a 19-year-old newspaper delivery person who was black, minding his business, doing his job. existing while black. And he was confronted by this wicked satanic rogue, suspected white supremacist cop terrorist, threatened with a gun, his life in jeopardy. And this cop suffered no charges other than a slight deficit in pay. But yet he's able to continue with his terrorism of black citizens of the community, with his job and with his gun and with the protection of his departments in his local municipality and in the state of Michigan. So, family, the complexion for the protection, highlighting the dualities of the American justice system with a simple question. If this was a black police officer and a white delivery newspaper person, 19 years old, would the outcome have been the same? We shall continue with our reviews within this continent of confusion, the land of Babylon, Egypt, and Sodom, as we review the spiritual expressions and examinations of the carnal existence. And until we are together again, I love you. I love you. I love you. To be continued. Revelations.Unveiled.Detroit.